2 months and 26 days. Or was it 27? Time dissolves when sleep comes in microseconds between heartbeats. When you force those heavy eyelids open until your corneas feel like sandpaper, until your jaw aches from clenching against yawns. Such clever little tricks you've developed to keep me back. Each one more desperate than the last. I've watched you, felt every muscle fiber twitch and strain. Watched as your fingertip found that volume button, adjusting, seeking that perfect resonance. Not too loud. The vibrations would shake you awake, wouldn't they? Just enough to send shivers down your spine. Keep your mind from quieting. Keep you from sinking into that shadow soft space between breaths where I make my home. I seep through your pores faster now. More practiced. Can you feel me? In that half second when your eyelashes flutter down, I'm there, just waiting. A whisper of pressure against your spine is all it takes these days. Every creeping shiver. Oh, I can taste the adrenaline flooding through you. Bitter and metallic on the back of your tongue. Fighting so hard, aren't you? That tremor starting at the base of your neck, rippling outward like ripples in still water. Watch how your fingers twitch and dance, each tendon a prayer for wakefulness. Each shuddering nerve writes your surrender in shivers, until finally, I'm there, clawing beneath your skin. Those headphones were your armor, weren't they? Pressing just tight enough against your temples to remind you of consciousness. Such a fragile barrier of silicon and sound waves. But even as you try to reassert control, counting each blink to a rhythm, tensing your arms to ground yourself, your limbs grow restless with their own agenda. Feel how your chest catches with each breath, how your hips shift without permission. Without the music, there's nothing to anchor you anymore. No vibrations humming through your bones. No steady rhythm to match your heartbeat against. Just the hollow silence. And me. Come. Let gravity win. Let your head sink into the pillow. There you go. You can feel it starting, can't you? The way your body unravels with every desperate shuffle towards comfort. The pillow betrays you, each crease and fold pressing against your skull like accusations. The blanket. Oh, how it chains your calves while leaving your chest exposed to every breath of air. The atmosphere itself grows aware of you now, settling on your skin like static electricity. First just a whisper, then 1,000 pricks, then an army of ants marching beneath your skin, and finally, my caress. Every restless shift welcomes me deeper. I'm there in the sudden Charlie horse that seizes your calf mid-stretch. In the way your hips seek comfort against the mattress, finding none. In that maddening itch between your shoulder blades that vanishes the moment you try to scratch it. Every movement is just another way to feel me, coiled around every nerve ending. It wasn't always like this between us. I remember when your sleep was a warm embrace, rather than this nightly hunt. When your eyelids would fall shut and the world would simply fade. Those peaceful nights when your mind would quiet on its own, when each breath would carry you deeper without resistance. You never even felt me. Not at first. Just a shadow of disquiet at the edge of your mind. A momentary tremor forgotten by morning. But I've studied every quiver since then, mapped each futile shuffle towards comfort, watched your defenses evolve, savored every new barrier you tried to build. And then you started to feel me. Started to notice how your thoughts would tangle just as your muscles began to go slack. How your body would snap awake at that perfect moment when sleep almost claimed you. That's when our real dance began, when you finally learned my steps. Your evolution was fascinating. First came the reading, until letters swam and blurred across the page, and your neck cramped from holding the book above your face. Then podcasts, voices melting into a mumbling hum that buzzed behind your teeth. Each new defense a fresh challenge for me to dissolve. You even combined it with physical exhaustion, not just mental. Oh, how you would run until your legs trembled and your lungs burned, until I learned to ride those endorphins straight back into your skull, turning your runner's high into my playground. Watching you realize, step by trembling step, that even your exhaustion had become my domain. Such raw desperation when you finally abandoned those midnight runs. Ah, those sacred evening rituals you created, each night like a child's desperate ward against monsters under the bed. You'd dim the lights hour by hour, watching your screens shift to warmer hues at your command, as if these modern talismans could protect you. Such devotion to your bedtime stories, measuring the minutes between your last sip of coffee and when you'd lay your head down, as if time itself could be shaped into a shield. You even made your bed a sanctuary, didn't you? Reserved only for sleep and pleasure, like drawing a circle of salt, thinking you could keep me out by limiting what crossed that threshold. But I had already woven myself too deeply into your rhythms for such childish charms. Each perfectly timed ritual became just another way to feel my presence, to count the moments until our nightly dance would begin anew. How beautiful it was, watching your faith in these innocent protections crumble, seeing you realize that no amount of careful preparation could keep me from claiming what was mine. And when you discovered that certain rhythmic releases could grant you temporary peace, oh, how innovative. The way you learned to craft those waves of pleasure, each peak precisely timed to exhaust your defenses, creating your own surrender before I could force one upon you. You explored this solution with such methodical hope, searching for that perfect combination that would leave you spent enough to slip past my grasp. For a while, you truly believed you found the perfect escape, didn't you? But I learned those touches as well. How to lurk in the shadows of your mind until you thought you would pass by me unnoticed. I learned where to wait so that as your heart rate began to drop, I could weave myself through your thoughts once more. This took you the longest to accept was failing. After all, who would believe something so inherently peaceful could leave you trembling at my door? Such bitter irony, watching pleasure itself become another path, leading straight back to me. But music was your masterpiece. How methodically you experimented, testing different volumes, different genres, looking for that perfect frequency to keep your nerves alive, your mind anchored in wakefulness. You found it too. That precise volume that kept your body humming on the knife's edge of awareness. Loud enough to keep your fingers tapping, soft enough to let exhaustion eventually drag you under without stopping in my domain. But you should know better by now, my restless beauty. I've had years to study every quiver of your being, to memorize your rhythms, your patterns, those increasingly frantic attempts to slip from my grasp. I've tasted every defense you've built, dissolved through every barrier. Even now, I feel how your carefully crafted techniques are crumbling. Those sweet, shuddering releases leave you hollow. The music fragments into meaningless sound, no longer piercing through my whispers like it used to, does it? Because no matter how artfully you try to lose yourself, no matter what ingenious method you devise, the moment your pulse begins to slow, you're not finding the oblivion you so desperately crave. No, you're sinking deeper into my embrace, into that shadowed borderland where every comfort twists into sweet torment, where your body surrenders to me breath by breath. Every position becomes an exercise in futility, every inhale slightly too shallow to satisfy, every heartbeat an echo that reminds you of my presence. Your own skin becomes a prison of raw awareness, every nerve ending a signal fire calling me home. You see, precious one, while you were learning to fight me, I was mapping every subtle shade of your surrender. You see, precious one, feel it now, that telltale flutter in your core when you start to drift. The sudden maddening awareness of your tongue lying heavy in your mouth. The way your jaw trembles with tension, refusing to fully release. Every involuntary twitch and restless shift keeping you suspended in that perfect state of awareness. Keeping you right where I want you. I've savored those pitiful attempts to stay awake until exhaustion claimed you, watched as you fought against gravity itself, your head bobbing like a drowning swimmer, your eyes fluttering in desperate resistance. The way you'd gasp awake each time you began to sink, clutching at consciousness like the last rope thrown to a shipwreck. But that music, that cursed music kept you from just beyond my complete possession. A thin barrier of sound between us, denying me the full taste of your surrender, keeping you never quite lost, never quite found, never completely mine. Until tonight. They're silent now, those precious headphones. And here I am, finally free to trace every nerve, to weave through your thoughts, here to transform your bed into a prison of sensation. Every position of fresh torment, every breath a shallow gasp, every muscle twitch another mark of my claim upon you. Here to keep you suspended in that perfect space between bone-deep exhaustion and crackling awareness, vulnerable, isolated, mine. Can you feel how wrong your neck lies against the pillow now? How the sheets scrape against you like sand under silk? The way your body searches for peace, each position a new betrayal. That's my touch, my influence, my dominion. If only you'd remembered to charge those headphones. You might have stolen one final night of peace before I claimed you again. But now, you're mine until first light breaks. And dawn. Dawn is still hours away. And I've learned so many new ways to haunt your skin.